lift me. You show me the way. Every voice in harmony. Together we pray. Try to rise above reason and hold on to your name. Finding love in the seasons without loving in vain. One heart and one soul, with one desire, one goal, with one voice, one song, with one solution. All for one.
All right, we are taking off. Welcome to the Great Transition. How are you, Seth?
Hey, great man. Another snowstorm here. How you doing?
Yeah, well, we actually have some snow in Israel here as
Oh,
well.
really?
Yeah, well, it's not like snow, like it's not really snowy,
You know,
you know,
Debbie of Debbie and Charlie
it's
in
like
Texas?
it's just yeah, sure. What about them? Oh,
She
well,
sent a
it's
great
going.
message that she has no food for like the
I saw
third
some
day or fourth day
pictures
or
of
something.
of
No
what's
electricity.
happening
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Texas is pretty
yeah,
serious situation.
crazy
Anyway, I'm in
stuff.
Jersey. Not bad like that, but we got like a snowy ice going on for a few
No,
days.
but yeah, but I saw some pictures and I think there's millions of people that are, in some of them are like with issues with electricity as well, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway,
Anyway,
hope, you know, hope it'll
I'll keep
be.
hoping because that's pretty serious. I used to live upstate. If the water where you had like freezing temperature all the time, if the water gets very cold,
Hmm.
so the water in the pipes freezes, obviously. If you're in a region where you're not prepared for that, the water pipes are normally like copper or something, so they expand, and copper is kind of malleable, but at a certain point it cracks, the pipe cracks,
Uh-huh.
but it's still ice inside the pipe. But as soon as the temperature warms up a little bit and starts to thaw,
Yeah.
water starts to like gush out of all of
Because
the cracks.
it's
So what's going to
right.
happen once Texas starts to thaw out is there's going to be just endless
Wow.
broken pipes in everybody's house and in the street and everywhere. Yeah.
So it's a serious
Yeah,
situation.
it's a pretty serious situation. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I heard it's
Wow.
like inside the house, it's like 0 Celsius.
Okay. Need to know is saying Texas has power coming back on today. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right.
So anyway,
Yeah. Well,
the adventure
nature,
continues.
nature reminds us its power here and there. uh,
It
recently,
does.
every day. Anyway, what else? NASA is what is it like the landing of their robot or rover, whatever, is
I'm
happening
so
now. We
uninterested
are
in this
we
whole.
are competing with the live broadcast of NASA right now, and
Oh,
they
really?
have
So
there's like a 500,000 people now watching this. Are you envy, Seth? We want to talk
I
about
know
envy
I'm
today.
so out of
Are
the
you
loop
envy?
on I'm super out of the loop on the whole Mars situation. So just fill me in. Is are they competing? Is Elon Musk competing with NASA, or how's that work? Like they're both
I
racing to Mars, or how, or like
I
what's and
honestly
why does he want to get
don't
to Mars so much?
I don't know the nature of how these
Is
initiatives work. Maybe Chris knows. Chris, do you know? Can you say something? What's going on with NASA? What's their deal?
It's not a competition. I mean, they're working together for a mutual goal here. The only reason this one's so special is because the
world
whole
domination?
process, well, all of, that's always. I mean, but there's this really cool aspect of this robot because everything that's happening from the descent to the landing, it's all automatic. So they're just sitting back and waiting, and that's why they call it the 7 minutes of terror. Because, listen, we let it go, and all these millions and billions of dollars, there we go. And if it works, it doesn't. If it does, that's awesome. But it's all coded in, and they're just along for the ride.
Hmm.
Okay, and the reason we all want to get to Mars so bad is because it's so crappy on Earth. Is that what's going on, or
Yeah,
there's something?
Plan B.
Okay,
Well,
all
no,
right.
I'd say this. Like, I mean, if you think about it, as part of the progress and development of science, I'm not against any of that, but to think about that as a practical solution to the problems of Earth, or to suddenly position going to Mars as the thing we should be worried about in order to care about our future, I think that's totally misprioritized. You know what I mean? Like that's just a totally you've got so many real problems that we have to deal with, that even if you move to Mars and everyone goes there and we got that figured out, let's say it's a big question if nature will actually allow human beings to live on that planet with and women to have babies there. There's big biological
Oh,
questions,
interesting.
but yeah, there's big questions about that. No one who says that all of that is possible. We know that there are a lot of problems with people, with astronauts going to space. The bone density thing. It's not that we know how human life can, and if it can and how live, take place and happen on another place than Earth. There's a lot of questions to be said, but let's put that aside. Even if we solved all that, and we figured out how to go to Mars and all that, we still got each other to deal with. We need to coexist, right? What's the difference if we have problems coexisting with each other? We're going to have them here on Mars or on Pluto, for that matter.
There's actually a documentary, maybe it's called Biosphere or something, about that. These people go into this biosphere for 2 years, and the idea was to like exist in there. It started out like
Yeah,
really
I wanted
cool
to
and
s-
really
I wanted to
utopian,
watch this. There's a
and it turned
documentary.
into
There's a
yeah,
doc-
yeah, yeah.
I think it's called Earth
I saw it a few
20
years ago.
something. Yeah. You see it? You saw it? I want to see it.
It was years ago, but yeah,
Mhm.
they went in and just like what you said originally, it's this kind of utopian ideal. Let's see if a bunch of people can exist inside here, and everything is beautiful and peaceful, and all the
Mm.
sustaining systems and everything. And of course, at the end, that darn human ego got in the way,
Yeah,
which
maybe
brings us.
envy was an issue. I'm just
Well,
I'm
that
just
brings us to
I'm just
somebody had
segueing to our
too many
topic. You know
palm
what?
leaves. I didn't have
Bef-
enough. I didn't have enough palm. Spaceship Earth is, thanks, Chris, the name of
the
the
documentary.
documentary.
Okay,
Chris, what
space
what what
report.
went wrong there? If you can see, I don't remember, but
Before you get
um,
there, I just want
yeah.
to. People are asking about snow in Israel. There is what I meant was there isn't really ever like serious situation of snow here. Very very rare, and if it happens mostly in the areas like Jerusalem, where it's like high topographically. So yeah, there is a little bit of snow going in Jerusalem right now. There is like a storm this week, but it's gonna end tomorrow or something like that. So yeah, just to get that out of the way.
Okay, I heard that.
Anyway,
Isn't there
yeah.
like a snowboarding place in Israel?
There is the Mount Hermon, basically, where you can snowboard and you can, in the right time of the year, but it doesn't snow. You don't really get that situation where it's snowing. You know what I mean? Like
How does the snow get there?
no, of course, but you don't see days full of like of just snow
Uh,
coming down. You'll be the mountain is covered, and then it stays there. It stays like that for a while, and you can snowboard. But that spectacle of snow falling down from the sky almost never happens in Israel. It's very rare. Yeah.
um,
Oh, Chris is showing my
oh,
Mount Hermon. Okay, okay. Anyway,
cool.
I will say this. I spoke to our friend from Andrew, actually, from a friend from Toronto, and he just we did a video conference, and he showed me what's going on. That he has to shovel snow like I can't remember what's the height he said, a few inches. Can't remember. Anyway, he was showing me that, and I went quickly to show my kids, and immediately they were like, the whole family is like just, looking at at my phone, like, oh, it's snowing there. Everyone is envy at the snow, at the
Ah.
envious of Andrew. So are you envy? Do you envy NASA? Do you envy the astronauts?
No, I don't
Should you
envy
be
NASA at all. I
okay?
wonder if there's got to be some kind of we learn something about ourselves. Probably that's the redeeming thing about the whole thing. That there's something that we, for sure, with the whole Carl Sagan, the cosmos. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
I think his I think he got many things. I guess his science was like spot on, a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
His kind of theories and philosophies about what he was extrapolating from the science. I
Mm-hmm.
think in many places he's like 100% wrong, if I could be so bold as to say he's 100% wrong. For example, he says, it's absurd to think in a universe that's as big as ours that the human serves any significant role in all of this. So up until he
Yeah,
says that sentence, he's like, it's so big, it's so incredible, it's so vast
but
that
here's the thing. All these scientists, the astrophysicists, in particular, but not only, the you you got to understand them, because the it's fun. It's really funny. I hear like, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, for instance, or when
right.
they talk about the idea that we, because of our ego, they actually say that we think of ourselves as the center of the universe because we are egoistic creatures, and that ego-driven thought is just self-centered. How can we be of any significance when there's this wide world and all that? But it's, oh man, that there is such a that how would you what would you make of that? You know what I mean? There's such a I,
Well, it
I
all has to
understand where
do with
they're coming from, but
of
yeah.
course, it's very sober, and also it's not, what, it's like super sober, but it's also at the same time exquisite. When you hear Carl Sagan, or he does a very good job of speaking about the cosmos. It's like art, it's like music when he speaks about the world we live in. It's so beautiful, but there's a fundamental understanding of where it all comes from. When when Darwin speaks of evolution, there's like a starting point and things are moving in a certain direction. When
Okay.
we when you and I, when we have this worldview, we already understand the goal and everything, the end point. We're starting at the end point, and everything that leads to the end point is on its way there. It's a totally different perspective on
Yeah, and what's great about science is the approach, that everything, like you said, sober and
sober.
rigorous examination of things, and just
Yeah.
the invention of the scientific method. How long do we have it in application in human society? What, 700 years, 800 years? It's fairly new. I'm not accurate on the history of science, but something like that, right? Just a couple 100 years, and there's no doubt that this took us forward in many ways, just this scientific thinking, scientific approach. But the problem is that, so the approach is, we have to test, we have to discover things in practice, tangibly, within our reason and knowledge, calculate them, repeat things in an experimental way, get results, document them, repeat them again, and so on. And we can't just make ideas, come up with ideas. We can come up with hypotheses, and then we have to test them. That's great. That's the scientific method. However, when you lock yourself into that, it could also limit thinking, and it could create a situation where there's even dogma within science. Today, there's a lot of debate between physicists and astrophysicists about, there are some physicists who wonder about the existence of aliens, and others say, it's like a taboo. They don't want to deal with it because they're afraid they'll be mocked. Others are thinking about, the existence of God. Yes, no, evidence for that. And then you have some scientists who don't want to touch that because they're afraid that it will do something to their reputation. So there is an issue here, and you can't really research the beyond how science is more. He can give us a lot of answers about how things work, the mechanics, how the sun heats up the planet, and the waves of the sun coming to the earth, and the stages they go through, and so that, yeah, but why does the sun exist to begin with? Why do humans exist to begin with? If you The problem is that when you ask these questions of why, about the nature of reality, the nature of existence, the purpose of human life, then you run into a situation where your ordinary science might not have the tools to solve it, and
Science is amazing.
and that's okay. But the problems begins when science will say, well, there is no answer because we can't get to one because we don't have a way to research it. So it's out of the discussion. That's an issue. That's an issue.
With Sagan, it's that everything that can be measured and observed,
Mm-hmm.
he's articulate, he's accurate. The scientific method is very precise and sober. When they try and say, okay, now here is our pool of information that we have, and from this information we're going to try and understand why, then they're lost, because the reason why is not a 3-dimension. And that's why I guess there's scientists who say there's got to be more than 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions. And there's, because what you realize that the why must be beyond. Let's segue into the
we can
topic.
talk more about science, but yeah, are you envy of Carl do you envy Carl
No,
Sagan?
I'm envy of his house. He had this house. I used to live in Ithaca where he lived. And after I dropped out of college and sold my car and was living on a bicycle, he had this house. He taught at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. And that's amazing town with waterfalls all over the town. And he had this house at the top of a waterfall. So I was envy of his house. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good enough segue for me. Let's talk about envy. Good enough segue. Yeah. Okay.
The reason why this topic is so interesting, and it has a lot to do with so many of the things we speak about, is because our approach is basically upside down from the approach of the world. When we decided, when we landed on this topic, and I just Googled envy, pretty much envy is thought of as like a negative quality.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get to why it is, why we can, it's actually not negative, or can be used in a not negative way. What's the difference between envy and jealousy? Is it worth it to get into that now, or should we kind of open the topic up?
Maybe let's. I mean, look, there's an issue here, because I would say this. If you go into evolutionary psychology and or philosophy, you'll probably find all kinds of distinguishing discernments between the two, envy and jealousy. And I think in colloquial terms, people relate jealousy more to like a negative thing, and envy potentially a positive thing. I think so. That's how I think people perceive it this way. But I would say for the sake of our discussion, let's bunch them up together and talk about the same and talk about them as
basically
as
when I see
the
something
same
that somebody
drive.
else has.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. I was a super frustrated high school student before I went to college, and just very unhappy with what life had to offer.
Really, I
And,
loved high school.
oh, you did?
Not in terms of like the school, but just like I had a good time. I had a good time. Yeah.
I
Anyway.
started. I think I started to have a good time towards the end, but I was very not. I was like starting my search for like what is
Mm-hmm.
this all about,
Me too.
um,
Yeah.
and I didn't have really any way to. I didn't really have any tools,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I like tried my religion a little bit and a few things, but I was very excited to go to college because I thought that when I got to college, we would be debating ideas and all that kind of great stuff. And so I got to college and um, it wasn't. I didn't find that there for whatever reason. Maybe it was the college I picked or
Mm.
whatever. After eventually I dropped out of college a few years later. 4 years later, I went back and finished. But um, I dropped out of college. I started. Do you know what rainbow gatherings are? Have you heard about these things?
Explain.
Okay, rainbow gathering. I don't know if it still exists. It probably still
Mm-hmm.
exists, but it's much different. This was like before cell phones and stuff. This was like the late 90s.
Okay.
Um, Not everybody had cell phones and things. So every summer in the middle of a national park somewhere, I don't know who the Rainbow Council decided, there was this gathering in the middle of some federal land somewhere. And people would come in like a month or two before, like serious hippies, and they would build bridges. Like when it was over and everyone left, everything got cleaned up. Ideally there was like no garbage, no nothing. So you would carry your water in, or you would like boil water from the river. There was no money there. Everything was like bartered. There was naked people everywhere.
Mm.
There was camps. There was like I don't know, I don't even remember anymore. There was many like villages within the woods. People would set up something and build all kind of installations and things. And every day there would be like a council in the middle with the big rainbow flag, and people would gather around and they would ho hum and whatever they did. I'm not making light of
Okay.
it. It was really cool. It was so
Okay.
different than anything I had experienced
Right.
as a kid, like growing up in high school. Um, there's a really funny story. I once got giardia. I went to these a few times. Giardia is when
You
you
got
drink the water
what?
out of the stream.
What is that?
Little giardia. There's little creatures that live in like stream water and stuff like that. You're not supposed to, people like me who grew up like in civilization, you're not supposed to drink out of the stream and stuff like that because you can get sick. I did in the middle of the
Okay.
woods. And then
What
just
what
like
is it
laid.
though? What exactly is giardia?
I don't know.
What
uh, I don't know, deer poop in the river, and then when you drink the water, you get the deer poop, or I don't know. There's little creatures. I don't know
but
exactly
what
what
are
it
the
is. I think it's
symptoms?
called
What are
giardia.
the symptoms? It's
Oh,
like a
nausea, headache, just
okay.
sick,
So
like
it's like it's like
stomach.
a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pollutant basically in your system. Okay.
All the you're supposed to boil any water, any coffee, any food, anything you eat or drink. That water's supposed to be boiled for like however many minutes before you do it, but you're just having fun in the woods and whatever.
All right.
Um, so anyway, uh
Not envy at that.
we'll
Yeah.
save the we'll
Not
save
envy.
yeah, not
Mhm.
envious of that. We'll save the Giardia story for Giardia duo. Thanks, Chris. Duodenalis is found on the surface in the soil or food or water that has been contaminated with feces from infection from humans or animals. So hopefully it wasn't from humans, but I think I didn't. That's my own diagnosis. I don't know what I got. Everyone was saying Giardia because many people, other hippies like me, were excited and didn't boil their water long enough or whatever. But at the time,
Okay.
I loved it. There was like crystals hanging from the trees and naked girls dancing around the fire and drum circles all night long. And I was like
Mhm.
19 years old or 20 years old. I'd been living at home in a small suburban town. People were smoking pot all night long. And I, I enjoyed not showering. I
Mm.
probably like matted hair. I enjoyed like, the people that I looked up to were like the dirty elders, who were like looked
Okay.
very crunchy
Hmm.
and had no shoes on for like 3 weeks at a time, and had the cool tent
They
made out of
probably speak slow too, like
probably.
kind
I
of
don't want
like.
to degrade them or put them
No, I'm
down in
kidding. I'm
any
kidding.
way.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. That's it.
That's a
That's
rainbow
what it looks
gathering.
like.
Okay.
That's a rainbow gathering.
So,
Yeah. So Chris, show it again. I'm feeling nostalgic. So this is what it was like. Imagine before cell phones. Um,
right.
Middle
So,
of the woods somewhere. There was children, and all of this stuff was built. Um, Chris,
yeah.
see if they
Yeah,
had
no,
any like.
that's clear. There were some similar festivals that I went to. It was fun. Yeah. It was fun.
Um, and there was no, like I said, no money, no nothing. You couldn't go to
Yeah.
like the vendor and get
Yep.
like a burrito, like there was
Yeah.
huge kitchens, and everything was volunteer also.
Hmm.
So they would make like a huge thing of rice, people carrying in like 50-pound bags of rice and cooking, and everyone helping to clean and all that kind of stuff. And everybody carried a bowl and a spoon or a fork on their belt, like with like a
Hmm.
carabiner. Like
Yeah.
everyone carried their own water bottle around and stuff. It was really cool. The point is that at that point in my life, the
Well,
people
if
who I
you want
look
to go to a place like that today, you go to Burning Man, basically, right? Like that's kind
Burning
of.
Man is a different. I don't think anything like that. Probably, I don't know where you could go for that now. Burning Man, I think, is way more
And
hip and like
uh-huh.
cool. And there's I don't know. It's a little bit different. There's I don't know. Actually, to tell you the truth, I have no idea. But um, the people that I looked up to were the crunchiest ones. The hippie elders were the ones with the coolest dreadlocks
Right.
were the
Hmm.
ones who I looked up to. I have zero desire today
To be that
to
way.
live to
Yeah.
live in the woods
Hmm.
for unless I like sold the business and kids are grown up and can just like sign off for a while. But now to go, there's like zero desire left. And I was thinking about examples of this before the show, to like how to relate to it. It's like dependent on what's important to us,
Hmm.
that determines what we become kind of envious of. Because today, if I saw those people, I wouldn't be envious of that at all. Like, you want to go live in the woods and we'll dance around the fire tonight and
Hmm.
we'll cook.
So
But
what's changed?
well, forget about what changed. Something changed, and today the things that I value, are totally. I mean, the things that I would want in my life now um, are quite different.
Okay.
But the mechanism inside is similar, because at that point, like, I wanted to be at the rainbow gathering. I wanted a cool tent near the cool crystal village, but so there's this thing inside of us that keeps pushing, envy, I guess, that keeps pushing us forward, keeps pushing us towards something. If you lived in Afghanistan and you walked in the street in a bikini, nobody's really envious of like walking around Afghanistan in a bikini, because in that culture there's no value to that. But if you were on the beach in you know Mexico somewhere, then that's what you want to do.
Right.
So it's all really based um on importance, on
Yeah, so
what the
envy is intertwined with culture and values. Yeah.
right. And without envy, if we didn't have it at all, and this is what I'm talking about being opposite of the rest of the world, if we didn't have envy at all, we would pretty much just be like an animal. I would get up. I don't care if I look at you and I see you've got better car than me, better house than me, better clothes than me, better this than me, better that. And I don't care. Our dog doesn't look at us and he's competing with us all day. The dog looks at you. He's like, whatever. I don't care that you've got a phone. I don't care that you got a car. I don't care. Just give me some food and pet my head, you know? Uh,
Yeah.
so without envy, a human being is basically just a monkey. He remains he's he has other features, or he doesn't have as much hair, but without envy, we're pretty much an animal. We remain as an animal. So envy is really, really important for humanity.
Yeah, we like with your example, I'm just thinking, what we can really take from it, that it's very clear that as you change environments, you are you're envious of other things and other people, and you want to become different things. So there's this constant fire of envy inside the human being, but how it manifests depends on what environment you put that human being in. You know, the question that I would ask is, can we put the finger on when does envy become destructive? You know, when is it constructive, and when is it destructive? Where is the line between the two? How exactly do we distinguish it? Do we notice it, detect it, and what determines if our envy becomes destructive?
Okay, so
That's yeah.
so let's look at two things. Let's look at the difference between desire and ego. Let's just call it those two words, okay? So a lion, he has a desire to eat. So he goes and kills a zebra. Okay?
Okay.
That's just, let's just call that desire. Okay? And every creature has desire, but let's use that example. So there's nothing destructive in that. If each creature did that, now it's true that, that zebra's going to have a bad day, but in the scheme of the whole system, we accept it. That's, a certain amount of zebras are going to die, and, plants also cry. And when that zebra is eating grass, there is some grass whose neighbors are going to be screaming because some grass is going to get eaten. So there's also that. But we accept that. So there's a difference between desire and ego. So when the desire now becomes that I want at your expense,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it becomes a problem. It's not just a problem that I want another car. It's not a problem that I want vacation. It's not a problem that I want to be rich. It's not a problem that I want beautiful things in life. That's just desire. The problem, when it becomes a problem, is when I want it and I don't want you to have. I want it and I don't want you to have it. I want it at your expense. I need to have more than you.
Yeah,
That's where
these behavioral economics experiments and research where there's a lot of it by Professor Dan Ariely, where he shows that people actually prefer, in many cases, to have a smaller raise in their salary on the condition that others will not get a raise also, or will still have make less money than them. Meaning, I prefer to have less as long as I have more than others, rather than even having more, but the others having the same as I have as well. He's actually showing that.
can you
It's an interesting
explain
thing.
that? Explain that.
Yeah, maybe Chris can find something. This is something I read a long time ago. I actually had an interesting conversation with Dan Ariely as well.
He's a really cool guy.
Very interesting, very very interesting. Yeah, he was in Israel. We did a show with him, the Butterfly Effect, and then afterwards
I should have him on this show.
we should. I had an interview. I did an interview with him and tried to kind of talk about other things as well. Anyway, so a lot of very interesting research, very interesting experiments. In general, behavioral economics is a very interesting field. It's a relatively new field. New, I think maybe 20 years, 15 years, something like that. It's not because up until then you could say that economics was just dealing with models and numbers and graphs and equations, and basically behavioral economics says, well, what about people, and their psychology and their nature and their inclination, and they are the ones who are making all kinds of decisions. So let's see how these two things combine. How do we make decisions about our worth, what's worthwhile and beneficial for us, and so on and so forth. And that's essentially is what behavioral economics deals with. So basically what he showed is that people will prefer to make less money as long as their peers don't make more than them. So I can't remember the exact numbers, the exact experiments. Maybe Chris can find something. But let's say that you make an X amount of money, and your boss tells you, I'm going to double your salary, okay? And now you hear that everyone else, if that happens, everyone else, all your peers, your colleagues, will also be making the same amount as you. Or, so that versus they won't get a raise, and they won't get a raise, and you will stay with the current salary that you have, which is still a little more than theirs. So he showed that in that situation, people prefer to have more than others than
So
to
what does
have
that
more
mean?
together with others. What does that mean? That it's very important to us, that this power of being envious of others, that this drive to have more than others, be more or have more than others, is something that is unique to human beings, and it it
Hold on,
it drives
okay.
a lot of our calculations and our choices, which can sometimes be even irrational. You know, but it's
Like
there.
the thing that's unique to human beings, I think there is some of it in the animal world. You could probably see there's certain creatures if they see another creature has a, I don't know if
What,
it was.
what? No, well, the envy exists in the natural world as well. You could argue that even not just in animals, you could argue that even the plant has a certain kind of potential informative uh, picture of the next stage of its growth that it needs to reach, and that it is, in a sense, it is envious of the plants that already achieved that next state of development, and and it aims to reach that state as well. Again, this is hard because I'm anthropomorphizing plants here. That's not what I mean to do. What I mean is that there, and certainly in animals you can see this a lot more clearly, but I think there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between that thing that happens in nature, even among animals, and there's research among primates that talks about how where they exhibit tendencies that seem like envy, sure, but the human can do something uh, that animals don't do, and that is the way that we create value in an artificial, virtual way, and that enables us to make plans for for a future outcome, and to be envious of something that we can become, that which is it can be a notion that we design from scratch. It doesn't come from our genes. It's come from us, from our consciousness and our social interactions. You understand what I mean? It's too not that
I
clear.
got you.
I,
I'm thinking that I was thinking of the fire festival. There was some guy he like did all these like he made a festival, like a high end, pay a few $1,000s to go to an exclusive place, and he didn't have anything. It wasn't a real festival. He didn't have it set up yet, but he just got a bunch of Instagram models or celebrities to post pictures saying, we're going to this festival, and everybody wanted to go and felt important about going, and they were part of the
mm,
thing, even though there's no substance. It was a whole kind of scam thing. But when you said like art virtual and all that, yeah, it made me think of that. So the value that what makes us feel fulfilled is not the money, according to the RELE research. The thing that makes us feel
it's the being more or having more than others.
it's having
Yeah.
more than others is what
Yeah,
makes me
or
feel
being
fulfilled.
more. It's the same thing. It depends. It's having more, being more. It's kind of two sides of the same coin. Yeah.
The funny story, it's like, I'll give you whatever you want, but I'm going to give the other guy twice as much. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, poke my eye out. It's like, so so the problem is not that everyone has. My problem is that everyone has the same as me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to have more in order to feel okay about myself. I'm always comparing myself. Here's the jumping point into the big reveal. I mean, I'm always comparing myself. We're always comparing ourselves
Always, all the time.
to everything around us,
Yeah.
and based on, if you want to be the coolest hippie, or not just coolest, if you enjoy the hippie lifestyle, you want to get rid of consumer, you don't care about consumerism, you just want to be,
Okay. Okay. Here's the thing. Sorry, you want you
no, no, go ahead.
Okay. No, because the comparing thing, the how we compare ourselves to each other all the time, that's a huge thing. So basically, humans are uh, creatures that constantly, always, more or less consciously, always compare themselves to each other. You always judge yourself based on, what you have or what you are compared to the others. Put people in prison, very quickly in the same cell, right? They're in the same status, same thing. Immediately, very quickly, you'll start, one of the people per one of the humans will look at the other one, and we'll start looking at what they have. Is their bed better? Is their side of the cell better? Do they get more? And then, and even in, when in prison too, of course, you'll have social hierarchies and statuses, and so on. Put them in a different place, put humans in whatever, in one part of the world, they will compete for one thing. Put them in a different place, they will compete for another thing, but they will always be measuring and comparing themselves to each other, and possibly competing in one way or another. That drive to always look for what the others have that I want as well, what the either others got that I maybe can possess as well. That thing comes from, we think about envy or jealousy, as as something negative, but that actually, if you think about it, that is the engine of growth and development. That is what causes human beings to integrate with each other, to the fact that they look at what their peers and what the other members of their society have and are, and they want that. That is what makes us grow each other. We are an engine of growth for each other.
So beautiful. It's so
So,
beautiful. It's an endless supply of
mm,
fuel that's propelling us, that the more that we're these social creatures, and we're constantly causing each other to develop.
yeah, it's
It's
if you
so
detach
it's
the
so beautiful.
It is beautiful, because if you detach the individual perspective from it, then what you're seeing here is just this amalgamation of qualities and tendencies that are like
Yeah.
brewing. They're brewing in a boiling pot, they're just like, cooking, and new evolution creates new social structures, and the human beings becomes more. There is no other animal in the world, right, in nature, that has changed its culture and its state of being and its lifestyle more than we have, and we keep changing, right? If you think about the modern person in the 21st century versus 100 years ago, 200 years ago, just the picture, the visual of how that human
Do you
being
imagine how
changes
bad
in time.
what it smelled 200 years ago? Could you imagine how bad?
Yeah, you're
How did they
right.
wipe?
You're right, huh? It's you mean
How, how,
literally. You mean literally, yeah?
I'm saying literally how
Yeah.
bad everybody smelled 200 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, but so go back 200 years ago, 300, 400, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. And and that's just a couple thousand years ago, let's say recorded history or something like that. The farther you back, the more you go back, you actually you get to see how much human culture and human lifestyle has evolved and changed. Why is that? Why do we develop technology and science and medicine and education and culture? Why is it? Why does that happen? And I would say that the engine, or one of the big drivers of this, is the fact that we naturally want to have what the others have, or be what the others are. And that is an engine of growth. So now, first of all, I think the first conclusion is we can't do anything about that, in terms of trying to go against it, trying to limit it, trying to restrict it. You can't, because if it's a force of evolution, it's just like gravity. It's a force of nature. It's physics. It's social physics. It has to happen. It's there. It's a force. You can't try to, you can't try to eliminate gravity. It's not going to work. Same thing with humans being envy of each other. So the only question is, can you put a spin on it? Can you direct it? Can you channel it? Can you shape it? That's where the ability of humans to artificially create value comes into play, which is another thing unique to humans, right? You know what I mean when I say that we can create value artificially?
I know what you mean. I'm not sure which value we need to artificially create, though. I mean, clearly, nobody has, there's no natural value for Oreo cookies. Nobody has a natural desire to go to Disney World. I mean, these things were created out of someone's imagination. And then a lot of people, why would Coca-Cola spend billions of dollars on advertising? There's no natural desire for everybody to drink Coke.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying about creating artificial values, but I'm not understanding where you're going. I mean, I kind of understand.
Okay, so if our concept of what's pleasurable, if our ideas about what's
okay, hold on. Just do this slowly, okay? Don't, because you normally you take me, and then you make a leap, and I lose it. So take me all the way, baby steps.
Yeah,
I already see when you're starting to set it up. I'm like, I already see you're like, okay, now I'm gonna take them on it. When you're about to make that leap, go slow.
Yeah. No, yeah, I lost where I wanted to go, but no, it's
not my fault.
No, it isn't. Let me try to get back there. So we all want pleasure. We all want to enjoy. We want to have it good. We want to enjoy our life. Now, what determines our notion of pleasure? What determines what we enjoy? How do we determine?
You already told me when we have more than someone else.
Well, no, that's a natural inclination. Okay, but more of what is what I'm asking? More of what? That's the question. What determines that? More of what? In one side of the world today, right? We give that example a lot, that in one side of the world they eat cockroaches. In another side of the world, they put people in a competition for $1 million survivor shows to eat cockroaches, right? X Factor, wherever the Fear Factor, whatever these shows are called, right? So the human can change the value of what's pleasurable. That's what I wanted to say. The concept of what we the concept of pleasure is malleable. So if we will always want what the others have, and we always want to be what the others are becoming, we have this natural drive. Now we can't change. That's a given. So the only thing we can change in the equation is, what are we competing for? What do we consider pleasure? What do we consider a higher social status? This is the type of things that we can do to if we change these, and we can, then we will change the nature of the competition, the nature of envy, the way the force of envy will not go away, just like gravity never goes away. But if you know how to use it, you can fly a plane. So we need to work on designing our concepts of what's pleasurable and what is considered a higher status. Okay, so to make it tangible, if it's a big thing, it's a highly respected thing to have, to conquer the world. Okay, then now countries, and that has happened in the last century, 100 years ago, right? Up until 100 and 150 years ago, if that is a coveted thing, to control as much territory as possible, then you're going to have a lot of war, right? But if it is a coveted thing to be a unifying element in human society, to be a force for positive human connection in human society, then people will want to compete for that. So it's a big deal. If it matters a lot what we are competing for. Does that make sense?
Sure. So there's so much energy every day that we spend, that we exert towards really meaningless goals, fleeting goals. If the goal was, what did you call it? Positive.
I'd said positive human connections, whatever.
Positive human connection. If the people we looked up to the most, if the people we envied the most were those who were doing that, and all of a sudden life every day is just everyone taking care of each other. Like you wake up in the morning, you're like, you just feel great because you know that everyone's caring about you and thinking about you, and everywhere you go, everyone's being kind, and that's amazing. How is that possible?
How is that possible?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, theoretically, I think it's very understandable.
The mechanics are there.
Yeah,
I got it. The science is there. It works. The envy works.
The practice, education.
Hold on.
Education.
Let's go back to the Carl Sagan thing.
Okay.
Yeah, you answered it. Education. By the way, education is horrible, though.
Education is horrible?
None of the teachers know this, understand this. I mean, the kind of things that I see being passed now, the kind of laws and rules around education and protocols around what's going on in public education right now are so horrible.
Okay. I meant education, on a massive social level for all ages. So it has to do with the influence of our society, with our culture. But take school as an example. So here's a really simple example, right? You put 20 kids, 20, 30, how many kids today are in a class? Well, it's COVID, so even that is changing now. But okay, but let's say a regular situation. So you have 20 people, you put them in a classroom, right? Now, what is the current dynamic? The current dynamic in the traditional public education system is that they go into that class, they are in a competition for grades. That's basically what's happening, because each of them is being graded. So automatically you check, did I get more than him? Did he get less than me? And so on. That's one side of it. Then there's what's happening between them, right? Like who has more success with the girls, who has more success with other things, right? And they compete for these things as well. And that creates, all kinds of results. So what if they were in their whole educational process was in a different dynamic, where they would learn about and practice how to improve their relationship with each other? Then the one who would be able to be better at that would have a higher status, and everyone would try to be better towards everyone. So it's not impossible. It's not
What's the
impossible, and
motivation
it's
for
not.
this?
The motivation is already there. Is I just want to be like the others and be better at them. That's something that's envy. That's just there. It's the only thing is that they're not being educated in a way that they are working on that. You see what I'm saying?
It sounds so ridiculously naive. I love it. I'm in. I buy.
Hmm.
I'll buy it. But it just still sounds too impossible
Really,
and
is it
naive.
is it naive that people need to learn how to be good
No,
communicators and
it
good
sounds
listeners and good and develop empathy and be good at negotiating and be good. You can detail. I just spoke about it in from a thousand foot, like the from really like a bird's eye view. If you start
okay. So if I want to be a
detailing
social
that.
worker, if I want to, if my goal is to grow up and be a good social worker, so fine. But how is this? How is this a solution? How do you?
Everything we do in this world requires, in one way or another, some collaboration and cooperation, right? So the you if that becomes valuable, then we will want to be better cooperators and better collaborators.
I
That
don't want my friends that are around me, I don't want to put them down when I see them have things that are better than me then. I want the people that I surround myself with to be great people. I want to surround myself with I want to build them up. Right? Normally we want to kind of keep everyone a little bit lower than ourselves. That's kind of what the
mm-hmm.
research
Yeah.
says, right? So
Yep.
I feel better about
Yep.
myself. Oh, I love all these guys as long as they're a little bit less than me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's how we
Yes.
are. So we're saying no. In this example, I constantly want everyone. I want to be surrounded by great people, and we're constantly playing this game with each other of greatness, of adding more good into the system. Sounds great. Still feels really, really theoretical and kind of very far away. Um, I
Well,
guess that's what this
it
brings up.
just shows how far away we are from it culturally. Yes, yes, we're very far from this notion. But I think the more we advance, the more we move forward, the every day now, the world will start showing us more and more how interdependent we are, how much we depend on positive, good, healthy, warm human relationships with each other. We're going to see that there's no other problem in the world besides positive relationships between people. When that becomes a big deal, when that becomes understood that this is the most important thing, but you know what? We're all egoistic and we can't do anything about it. It's hard for us to coexist. I'm not naive. It's hard for people to cooperate, collaborate, work together, communicate, be empathetic towards each other, listen to each other, work together, see a shared goal, work on a shared project, see their shared destiny and their shared faith on this planet, share resources. I'm not naive. That's exactly the problem. I'm just saying, once it becomes clear that this is the only problem that we have, the
What's the only problem?
that we can't connect properly with each other. That in order to coexist, in order to make life better on this planet, in order to prevent threats of war and economic disparity and ecological disaster and nuclear catastrophe and whatnot, and even fight the protect ourselves from viruses, whatever it is, in order to be sustainable on with human life on this planet, we're going
So
to see that the only problem is to bring people is to work on our connection. When that becomes a thing that that our culture needs to do, meaning people have to always work on their connection, it will become a status thing as well. Our ego will help us. We will use
Mm,
envy we will use envy in a new way. Oh, this guy is the guy that knows how to never put people down. and he knows
Isn't it
how
so
to
amazing?
elevate
So,
everyone around him. I want to be like him.
oh yeah.
That's the kind of envy
Oh
that we
yeah.
need.
That's so
You
beautiful.
know, this guy is a great collaborator. He knows, even if he's, I'm not saying we won't have managers and, you know, everything will just be flattened. No, if even if you look at the human body, then there's brain cells and there's skin cells and there's all kinds of different cells doing different jobs. Some are managing, some are executing, some are distributing, some, everyone's doing a different thing, but they all, so to speak, appreciate each other, and they all contribute to the same goal. And so they don't work to squash each other. They don't work to cancel each other. They don't work to denigrate each other, because otherwise the body will die. We're coming to the point where we're so interdependent around this planet that we're going to have to recognize that. And then we will have to start being envious, not of those who made it to the top and crushed all the opponents, but those who made the system healthier, who contributed more to the health and prosperity of the whole human system. They are the heroes. They're the ones we want to be like, and our ladder of values and social norms will change, and our then innate inherent force of envy will be used in a new way. It will take us to a whole different kind of human experience. That's where we need to go with envy.
Oh, so awesome. Now you got me. I got it. I love
I hope we what?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the concept of seeing the guy who's like, he's walking down the street and everyone's like, that's just not a regular friend over there. That guy, he's like, he's always caring for everyone. He's like when you said it, it really set me on fire.
And you know
That's
what?
so beautiful.
Shannon here. Hey, Shannon. She's asking on the chat there. Isn't this still our ego? Isn't this ego as well? So the ego
Yeah.
doesn't need to be squashed. Yeah, it sure is. It sure is the ego. You can't squash the ego, nor should you. It's a force of nature, just like gravity.
Top three coolest things about this show is that we constantly, like, everything here is upside down from the normal perspective of normal life. Like, we just took ego and envy, which are these things that everyone is saying it's like a bad thing, and we're saying, yeah, but how are we ever going to get rid of it? We're not.
It's an engine. It's an engine. You just have to put a different spin on it. That's all we need to do. We need to put a different spin on it. Nature, it didn't create the ego for us to eliminate it, to fight against it. It created the ego for us to ride over it, to ride on top of it, to surf it like a wave, and be on top of the ego, be on top of our own ego. That's where, and again, this is something we can do thanks to our ability to create artificial social values. I don't think we can get further into this. Your question is super deep though, and super interesting. We might have to really just do a jam about just the ego, what it is, and how do we deal with the human ego. Anyway,
awesome.
Let's
what a
all
cool
be
feeling in the virtual space now.
Let's be envious of the right things. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, everybody. We haven't done global check-in in a while. We need to get back to that.
We should, because I'm seeing a bunch of places. Where people are connected from, and it's always so great to see the chat filling up with people from so many places, integrating here in the same kind of thought, thinking about the positive future of human connection, which I would say is inevitable, you guys. One way or another, the future is inevitable, and the future is human connection. And it's only a question of how soon we realize that and start directing our development towards that as well. What do you say? We're not going to do this today, I know, because you're not ready, but we got to go back to try to improvising some music at the end of the show.
I promise, as soon as I get the book off of my desk, as soon as the book is published, I'm going to switch gears back to music.
All right, everybody. Let's say
Awesome.
goodbye to everyone. Yeah, we will see you on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch everything, the Great Transition, all the 2 live shows a week, and the clips that we put during the show, the week. So go to the link that's on the screen now. That's the Great Transition channel. Subscribe there and make us happy, and we'll try to make you happy as well. See you Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. Big hug.
Hey, it's me, your favorite hoodie, and I need a
God,
wallet.
it happened.
First, I woke up to a nice.
We got the advertisement. What is it? Insurance? It's
I
a health
guess I don't have a
insurance
professional
thing?
Spotify account.
So that's why it tells you. Why do you play it from Spotify though? Just don't you have like?
I
Don't you
know.
have your own music, guys? All the music that we play here at the end of our shows is original music that
No, I don't have
Seth
my
and
own playlist.
other friends, sometimes myself as well, have created, collaborated together. People from around the globe creating music together with the message of connection, human connection, global
Okay, the ad is
connection,
over, by the way.
and for some reason, Seth doesn't have the files on his computer, so he.
Okay, I'm playing from I'm playing from the Great Transition playlist. If anyone likes these songs, at the top of that link that Asaf posted, somewhere there's a little link to the Spotify playlist, and you can hear songs such as this one. So big hug to everybody. Lots of love. We'll see you Sunday at 2.